Death in the Briggs Church. The town of Briggs was small enough that everyone knew everyone, yet large enough to hold secrets. Its mornings began with the toll of the chapel bells, a sound that carried across the red earth roads and into the hearts of its people. Those bells were the voice of Sister Mary Ann Cole. Could her death be a sign? A message, a question that disturbs the minds of the citizens living in that small town. Mary Ann was not just a reverend sister. She was the town's conscience. Her presence was steady, like the rhythm of prayer beads sliding through fingers. She had a way of listening that made people feel seen, even when they had nothing to say. Mothers trusted her with their children. Fathers sought her counsel in times of doubt, and the youth, restless, reckless, found in her a gentle anchor. Mary Ann's devotion was not performative. She lived simply, her habit always neat, her sandals worn from long walks to visit the sick and elderly. She had a laugh that was rare but unforgettable, a sound that seemed to break through the solemnity of convent life. She taught catechism with patience, often weaving in stories from her own childhood to remind her students that faith was not about perfection, but perseverance. Yet, beneath her calm exterior, there was a quiet intensity. She prayed longer than most, often lingering in the chapel after others had left. Some said she was communing with God. Others whispered she was communing with ghosts. Mary Ann was the eldest of 2 children. Her father, Mr. Cole, had once been a respected schoolteacher, known for his sharp mind and strict discipline. But after the disappearance of his wife, Mary Ann's mother, he became a shadow of himself. He rarely spoke, and when he did, his words carried the weight of unspoken grief. Her younger brother, Anthony, was restless, drawn to the streets and the company of boys who thrived on mischief. Mary Ann tried to guide him, but their paths diverged. She chose the convent, he chose survival. The disappearance of their mother 20 years earlier was the defining wound of their lives. One evening, she had gone to the railway tracks to meet someone. No one knew who, and never returned. The police investigation yielded nothing but rumors, debts, betrayal, perhaps even foul play. For Mary Ann, the unanswered questions became unbearable. Joining the convent was her way of seeking peace, of surrendering her pain to God. Her decision shocked the town. She was young, beautiful, and intelligent. Many expected her to marry, to build a family. But Mary Ann's heart was already tethered to loss. She believed that by serving the church, she could serve her mother's memory. The convent became her refuge. She embraced its discipline, its silence, its rituals. But she also brought warmth to its cold walls. She planted flowers in the courtyard, organized food drives for the poor, and insisted that the sisters visit the prison to pray with inmates. Faith, she often said, is not meant to be locked behind walls. It must walk into the places where hope has died. Still, the shadow of her mother's disappearance lingered. Mary Ann never spoke of it openly, but those who knew her best could see it in her eyes, a flicker of sorrow that never fully dimmed. She kept a small locket with her mother's photograph, worn and faded, tucked inside her habit. At night, when the chapel was empty, she would kneel before the altar and whisper prayers that were less about salvation and more about closure. She longed for answers, even as she devoted herself to faith. The disappearance of Mrs. Cole 20 years earlier had been the first crack in the family's foundation. Before that night, the Coles were admired, a respectable household with a schoolteacher father, a graceful mother, and 2 bright children. But after she vanished, the family became a subject of whispers, their names spoken with pity and unease. Mr. Cole, once a man of authority in the classroom, began to unravel. His lectures grew shorter, his patience thinner. Students whispered that he sometimes stared out the window mid-lesson, lost in thought, as though waiting for someone to return. He stopped attending town gatherings, and when he did appear, his eyes were hollow, his clothes disheveled. Some townsfolk pitied him, saying grief had consumed him. Others suspected darker truths. Rumors spread that he owed money to men who dealt in shadows, smugglers who used the railway tracks as their lifeline. Some claimed his wife had been taken as collateral. Others whispered that he himself had been involved in her disappearance, silencing her to protect secrets too dangerous to expose. Marianne's younger brother, Anthony, bore the brunt of the family's collapse. Without a mother's guidance and with a father lost in grief, he drifted into the streets. He fell in with boys who thrived on petty theft and gambling, their laughter masking desperation. The town watched him with wary eyes. Shopkeepers accused him of stealing fruit, and neighbors complained of his late-night brawls. Yet, beneath his defiance, there was a boy broken by loss. He resented Marianne's choice to join the convent, seeing it as abandonment. "You chose God over us," he once spat during an argument, his voice trembling with hurt. Marianne carried the weight of both her father's silence and her brother's rebellion. She tried to bridge the gap, visiting her father daily, urging Anthony to change. But her efforts were met with resistance. Her father remained locked in his grief, and Anthony grew more reckless. Her decision to join the convent was not just devotion, it was survival. The convent offered her stability, a place where she could channel her pain into service. Yet, even within its walls, she could not escape the town's whispers. Briggs was a town that thrived on gossip, and the Cole family was its favorite subject. Some believed Mrs. Cole had run away with another man, unable to bear her husband's sternness. Others claimed she had been silenced after discovering something dangerous about the smugglers who operated near the railway tracks. There were even whispers of a curse. Elders recalled that the land near the tracks had once been the site of violent disputes during colonial times. "That family is marked," one old woman muttered, first the mother, now the daughter. The police investigation into Mrs. Cole's disappearance had been perfunctory, hindered by lack of evidence and the town's reluctance to speak openly. Over time, the case faded into silence, but the suspicions never died. For Marianne, every visit to the market, every walk through town, carried the weight of those suspicions. People greeted her warmly, but behind their smiles lay questions they dared not ask. Did she know more than she admitted? Was her mother's disappearance tied to her father's dealings? Was Anthony's rebellion a symptom of guilt? The family's unraveling became a cautionary tale whispered to children. "Do not keep secrets, or they will consume you." On a rainy Thursday evening, Sister Marianne failed to appear for Vespers. At first, the other sisters assumed she had been delayed in her duties. But when her room was found empty, her rosary lying abandoned on the desk, unease spread through the convent. By dawn, the town was in uproar. The woman who had been a pillar of faith was gone. The police launched an investigation, retracing her steps, questioning townsfolk. Some claimed they saw her walking toward the old railway tracks, the same place her mother had last been seen 2 decades earlier. 3 days later, her body was discovered in the marshland beyond the tracks. The scene was haunting, her habit torn, her hands clasped as if in prayer, her face serene yet marked by bruises. The town was shattered. How could such a devoted soul meet such a violent end? The autopsy revealed strangulation. But more chilling was the discovery of a locket in her pocket. Inside, a faded photograph of her mother. Investigators uncovered unsettling connections. Witnesses recalled seeing Anthony near the marshland the night of her disappearance. Yet, when questioned, he insisted he had been elsewhere. His alibi crumbled under scrutiny. But then came the twist. Fingerprints on the locket did not belong to Anthony, nor to Marianne. They matched a man long thought dead, a former associate of her father, rumored to have been involved in her mother's disappearance. The case spiraled into a labyrinth of family secrets, betrayal, and generational trauma. As the investigation deepened, townsfolk began to piece together the chilling symmetry. Marianne's death mirrored her mother's disappearance, both tied to the railway tracks, both shrouded in silence. The final revelation was devastating. Her father, in a desperate attempt to protect his family from the same men who had taken his wife, had concealed truths for decades. The resurfacing of those men, and Marianne's quiet search for answers, had led her into their path. Her devotion to faith had been her shield, but her pursuit of truth had become her undoing. The investigation had reached a dead end. The fingerprints on the locket had led nowhere, and the townsfolk were restless. Rumors swirled like dust in the harmattan wind. Some accused Anthony, others pointed to shadowy smugglers. But the detectives sensed something deeper, something closer to home. The confrontation. Detective Wales sat across from Mr. Cole in the dimly lit police station. The old man's face was lined, his eyes weary. He had been cooperative but evasive. Mr. Cole, Wales began, his voice steady. We've gone through every lead. But there's one thing that doesn't add up. Why was your wife's photograph found in your daughter's pocket the night she died? And why did she carry it everywhere? Mr. Cole shifted uncomfortably. She loved her mother. That's all. Wales leaned forward. Or perhaps she was searching for the truth. The truth you've hidden for 20 years. Silence. The ticking of the wall clock filled the room. The revelation came slowly, like a wound reopening. Years ago, Mr. Cole had made an agreement with his wife. Mary Ann and Anthony were not his biological children. Their true father was a man from outside the town, a man whose identity had been concealed to protect the family's honor. The truth did not emerge in a single confession, but in fragments, each piece more unsettling than the last. Years ago, Mr. Cole had discovered that his wife carried a secret that threatened the very foundation of their family. Mary Ann and Anthony were not his biological children. Their true father was a man from outside the town, a figure whose presence was both scandalous and dangerous. This man was not just a fleeting lover. He was someone tied to a past the town wanted to forget, a drifter with connections to criminal dealings along the railway tracks. He had charmed Mrs. Cole during a period when her marriage was strained, and the children were born of that union. For Mr. Cole, the revelation was devastating. In a town where reputation was everything, the truth would have destroyed him. A respected schoolteacher, a man of discipline and authority, could not bear the shame of being seen as a cuckold, nor could he allow his children to grow up branded as illegitimate. So he struck a pact with his wife. She would never reveal the truth of the children's parentage. He would raise them as his own, ensuring they had education, stability, and respect. In return, she would remain silent, protecting the family's honor and shielding the children from scandal. It was an agreement born not of love, but of fear. Fear of disgrace, fear of gossip, fear of losing control. But Mrs. Cole's conscience grew heavy. As Mary Ann matured, her resemblance to the outsider became undeniable. Anthony, too, carried mannerisms that were not Mr. Cole's. Mrs. Cole began to believe the children deserved the truth. She wanted them to know their real father, to understand the blood that ran in their veins. Mr. Cole resisted. "They are mine," he told her coldly. "If you tell them, you destroy everything. You destroy me." When she threatened to break the pact, she vanished. The town believed she had been taken by smugglers, but in reality, Mr. Cole silenced her to preserve the lie. Years later, Mary Ann began asking questions. She carried her mother's locket, searched old records, and whispered prayers that sounded more like investigations. She was close to uncovering the truth, that her father was not her father at all. And just like her mother, she paid the price. The frightening twist. Detective Wales pressed harder. "Your wife disappeared near the railway tracks. Your daughter was found in the same place. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern." Mr. Cole's hands trembled. "She wouldn't stop," he whispered. She kept digging. Marion, she wanted to know who her real father was. She wouldn't let it go, just like her mother. Wales' eyes narrowed. "So you killed her." The old man broke down, his voice cracking. "I couldn't bear it. The shame, the whispers. I thought if I ended it, the secrets would die with her. But they don't. They never do." The confession spread through the town like wildfire. People gathered outside the station, their faces pale with disbelief. The revered sister, the woman they had loved, had been murdered not by strangers, but by her own father. Inside the station, Anthony sat in stunned silence. All this time, he muttered, "You let me believe it was the streets, the smugglers, the curse. But it was you." Mr. Coles, shackled and broken, whispered, "I only wanted to protect you." Anthony's voice rose, trembling with rage. Protect us? You destroyed us. The case closed with Mr. Cole's arrest. The town mourned not only the loss of Sister Mary Ann, but the betrayal of a man they had once respected. The bells of the chapel tolled for her funeral, their sound heavy with grief. Detective Wales wrote in his final report, "The truth was not stolen by outsiders, nor buried in shadows. It lived within the family itself. Secrets concealed in silence became the seeds of tragedy. And in the end, the father who sought to protect his children became the architect of their ruin." The revelation was more frightening than any rumor. It was not smugglers, nor curses, nor strangers. It was the father himself, the man who had raised them, the man who had taught them discipline and faith. His crime was not just murder, but betrayal. The town never recovered fully. The railway tracks became a symbol of silence and death, and the Cole's name was spoken only in whispers.